Hello, I'd like to say this is my first Paralyzed listener one. I do want to say that before we get on, I want to say how you became paralyzed. So basically, it was to make it slower, basically, it was a solo mission where your legs had been sadly crushed and shattered, which recovery girl surgery or anything else could not be able to fix it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Now let's get started. I was awoken by the peeking morning light hitting my face. Its warmth comforting me, but its brightness killing my sleep. I let out a groan, rolling my head over to face the other side, away from the bright light. It was still bright, with the light reflecting off the wall, back towards my eyes, hitting them with pain. Letting out a sigh, I knew that going back to sleep was hopeless, so my eyes opened slowly. I could feel my body waking with every movement as I pushed myself up. I yawned, releasing itself from me. I stretched out my arms, listening to the morning sounds, as I could hear the muffled singing of birds and a few car horns. There wasn't any rustling noises coming from inside the bedroom, so I assumed I was alone for the day. I glanced over to spot next to me, seeing it was empty of a body. Kego's, to be exact. He must have been on duty today or something. Running my hand over his empty spot, I let out a sigh. I didn't like it when he had to work. It made me feel lonely in the flat, as there was nobody else here besides me. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like me time and being alone, but it seems like he's always gone anymore. He either has to work or he has to go here and there. He's not home much anymore, and it hurts. I want to follow him out and go on dates again like we used to, but with him being a big star, he is anymore. He advises that it's better if we don't keep it all. If we keep it all a secret, it is to protect me, and to make sure that villains don't know I exist, so they could use me against him. I understand that, and I agree. With my disability and all, I wouldn't be a bit defenseless against anyone, so it was probably best I stay out of the light. Newspapers and news stations would eat that stuff up like breakfast if they found about us too. I could almost already see the headlines. Pushing that all aside, I glanced over to the side of the bed, seeing my black wheelchair sitting there at my bedside. I let out a sigh, putting one arm under my leg, as the other was sent to the other side of the bed. Twisting my body, my legs dangled off the side of the bed as I scooped closer to the side, making sure I still had some groundings on it. Pulling the chair closer to the bed, I lifted myself off with one hand on the bed and the other on the seat of the chair. With this, I slowly slid down onto the chair, instantly falling into the seat with a thud. Satisfied with my little morning accomplishment, I wheeled my chair over to the door, going through the open doorway, smiling as a little Kego reminded to leave it open. Yeah, a little Kego reminded. Okay. Going through it, I wheeled over towards the kitchen area of the apartment, a little shocked to see Kego himself sitting there at the dining room/kitchen table. Raising an eyebrow, I rolled over to the table, locking my chair at the open area for me. Thought you had work today. He looked up from his phone, giving me a smile before he stood up. Well, good morning to you too. He walked over to the stove, grabbing a plate that sat beside it, before walking back over to me, sitting the plate of favorite food/breakfast in front of me. The agency gave me a day off, said they apparently overassigned people for today, so I volunteered to take the day off. I smiled at him, looking down at the food as I dug into it, taking a few bites before looking back at him. As he sat down in front of me again, his wings stretching wide, a few feathers fell off, causing me to internally groan, knowing I'll have to clean that up later. I thought that maybe we could go out today. I almost choked on my food at the sound of that, making him because of alert as he was at my side. I let a few coughs, swallowing the food before waving him off of me. I took a moment to regain myself, holding a hand up as a signal him to wait until I spoke up. Like go out to lunch or sure, lunch and maybe go see a movie. He smiled at me as my face went bright with joy. I nodded my head quickly, almost jumping in place before my joy seemed to sense as I looked at him, worried. But what about the paparazzi and everyone else? He waved me off, leaning back in his chair a bit as he shrugged. Calm down, he assured, and I took in a breath, watching as his wings flexed out a bit again, moving a little as he spoke. I thought that maybe we could, for one day, ditch that and go out. It's been quite a while since you've been out. I'm starting to worry your people skills have delented. I opened my mouth, a little offended while giving him a small laugh. Just because I don't go out with you doesn't mean I don't go out at all. My people skills are perfectly fine, but it would be nice to go out, finally, with you. He held a smirk now, flinching his hands as a few feathers came my way, sweeping under the plate in front of me and taking it over to the sink. I shook my head at him, unlocking my chair as I backed up. All right, then, let's get ready to go, he spoke as he suddenly came up behind me, grabbing onto the handles of the chair, wheeling me over to the bedroom. I let out a small yell, cursing him to get off the chair, with a bit of a laugh. After we both got ready, dressing in casual clothes, we were about to head out before I stopped my chair, looking back at him. Are you sure it's a good idea to go out? Are you doubting me? He asked with a smirk, causing me to shrug at him, shaking my head. I guess not. He continued to wheel me out of the apartment, going towards the elevator as he spoke up. When did we last go out? I thought about it for a sec, not completely remembering when it was right away. It's been a while since we last were out. We've been living together for about 4 years now, since my accident, and since then, we really haven't really been seen together. It's been about 4 years or so, I answered, causing him to let out a short gasp, stopping at the elevator as I leaned over and pressed the button for us. Holy shit, that long? Sorry I've been taking you out sooner. He apologized, but I shook my head at him, turning to look back at him. It's not your fault. You got work and hero stuff. I smiled at him, and I could see his smile drop a little, probably feeling some pity for me. He always knew of my hero dream, and believe I had shot at it in high school. He'd always encouraged me to join him after school, train, even if sometimes we weren't supposed to. Higo knew my quirk was a rare one and powerful one at that. And when the accident happened, he knew that was all over. Not a day went by where he wasn't by my side, though through supporting me, quirk or no quirk. He shuffled in his spot, his wings spread for a second before returning to their resting position. His eyes looked at me with a soft gaze before he leaned down and kissed the tip of my nose. It's still shitty to leave my girlfriend by herself for most of the day. I mean, the boys down at the agency would love to see you again. I giggled a little, shaking my head at him. I see them enough as it is. Just because I'm not physically at the agency doesn't mean I'm not working. Yin, you talk to them, not see them. There's the difference. As the elevator opened with a ding, I rolled in, and before I could make a comment back to him, he beat me to it with a question and said, "So, are we walking around or driving?" I debated that for a second before shrugging. "Whatever is easier for you." "Well, walk. You need sunlight," he answered. My eye twitched a little. His hand reached out and pressed to the first floor button. Then the button blew up, popping up with his finger leaving. I grumbled under my breath, crossing my arms as I looked forward at the door. "I'm not that pale." I could hear him chuckle from behind me. "And you're not that tan, too." "Sorry if you guys are." "Then was the last time you went out?" I look up over my shoulder at him leaning against my chair, looking down at me. I shook my head at his as he held his ridiculous smirk on his lips, leaning down to give him a kiss, and I turned away. "Last week, when I went to go get groceries, thank you very much," you statistically said as the elevator let out a ding again. Looking up to the floor indicator, I saw we were only at the 5th floor instead of the first. As the doors opened, they revealed a middle-aged woman with a little boy who looked around 4 or 5. She gave us a smile as Kego moved the wheelchair over a bit in the elevator and leaned towards the button. "What floor, ma'am?" he asked, looking over at her, her strawberry blonde hair bouncing a bit as she answered. "Oh, the garage, please," she nervously said. Kego pressed the button below, the already glowing button, before taking a step back, sticking to my side again. As we stood there in silence, I glanced over at the little boy, seeing him staring at me. He looked a bit confused as he continued to stare, to which I smiled at him. I was used to the stares and side eyes from people, especially from kids. It didn't bother me much anymore. People were always curious about what happened, or interested in how I lived. And I don't blame them. It can be annoying, though, especially when others want to help me out when I don't need it, or when people would ask me personal questions that I didn't want to answer, or when people would offer me pity because of my situation. It seemed to be normal, though, so it didn't bother me much anymore. Just every now and then, except right now, wasn't much of an issue, as kids are the ones who most stare at me. I simply smiled and gave him a smile back, pointing at me. "Oh, you pointed at me. Why are you in a wheelchair?" His mom seemed to snap at him instantly, bending over to scold him. "Justin, you don't just..." I tried to wave her off of him, an awkward laugh escaping from me as I spoke. "Ma'am, it's okay. I don't mind." I reassured her, calming her as she leaned back up, a hand still holding on her son's shirt. He stared at me with a fear yet thankfulness in his eyes as Mom spoke. "Are you sure? I'm so sorry, she began, but I spoke ahead at her, giving a soft, small smile. "It's completely fine. It happens," I answered, and then turned my gaze to the kid, my smile staying as I signaled him to come closer, which he did. As he took a step closer, I felt my voice a little low, almost as if it was a secret. "The reason why I'm in this chair is because it's kind of my stroller. My legs just don't want to work today, so I made this guy right here." "Oh," so I gestured to Hawks, "pushed me around in this chair for the day." The kid seemed to giggle for a bit, before leaning in slightly, his eyes gazing up to Kago, before looking at me confused. His voice matched mine, as it was like a whisper. Why don't you make him fly you around? Flying would be so cool. I looked back, seeing Kago smiling a bit as he was enjoying the conversation now. I shook my head, looking back to the kid as I let out a sigh, because I think he would drop me if we flew together. A hand shot up over the kid's mouth as he looked back to Kago. His face was shock. He looked at me with wide eyes. His hands dropped as he leaned in, his hands cupping around his mouth. He looks a little scary, so don't fly with him. He would drop you. I'm sorry. And with that, if we heard the elevator ding, signaling that we were on our floor this time. Smiling to the kid, I waved a goodbye as Kago began to roll me out of the elevator and onto the first floor. It was slightly empty, with a few people sitting there and here and there on the lobby sofa, typing away on laptops, chit-chatting with others, or just eating a bagel. These weren't many stairs, as much of the people seemed unfazed by us. And I was friends with quite a few people in the apartment complex. Well, that kid was cute. I heard the man behind me comment, and I nodded to myself. He was adorable. Probably just made my day. By saying I was scary? Yep. I popped the P at the end, smiling a bit. As I was wheeled over to the few step downstairs, I pointed over to the wheelchair ramp. I know, trust me, I won't make the same mistake again, Kago chuckled out, taking me over there. I shook my head, looking around the lobby as I spoke. You said that last time, yet you tried to lift me down the stairs, I grumbled as he steered me down them, taking me over to the front entrance. I waved to a few people passing by, giving smiles to whoever passed by. All right, whatever, it happens. I could practically hear him roll his eyes, opening the entrance door with a few feathers before rolling out. The sunlight hit my eyes like a bullet, as it seemed to blind me for a second. Kago, you tried to carry me and the wheelchair down the stairs at least 10 separate times. It happens. We went down the sidewalk, my eyes wandering around, gazing over the buildings and trees around us. It made me so happy to be in Kago's company, even if it did attract attention from people around us. The whispers a little louder the more we walk along, but it just made me happy to sit there and talk to him, as if everything was normal. Just as we got near the restaurant, he promised to eat promised lunch for us at. I could feel a few reporters rushing towards us. Out of a panic, I bit. What? Yeah, I bit. I glanced up to Kago and gave him a frightful look. They're coming at us. He just gave his signature soft smile before tilting his head. Don't worry, I got this. As the reporters came closer, we could hear their voices calling out for us. I could feel the speed of our walk speeding up a bit as he tried to rush into the restaurant, but was stopped when we had to open the door to go in. Excuse me, Hawks, who are you with today? Is this your girlfriend? How long have you two been dating? Is this the ex-hero speedster? Yeah, speedster. What is the relation between you two? The questions continued as we stood there at the door, waiting to be released to go in. I could hear Kago chuckle a little as he turned around to face the paparazzi. I smirk, probably sitting on... What? Oh, a smirk, probably sitting on his face. I kept my face away from the paparazzi as I knew it held it low, just listening to the noises around me. To answer your question, yes, she's my girlfriend. And that's all I'm answering. Now, if you excuse me, I have a date with my girlfriend, I heard him say as his wings stretched out, opening the door for us using them. Pushing me through the door, we were met with a delightful smile and a smiling face as the hostess lady stood there. Hi there. Welcome to, I'm going to butcher this name, Jinbuli's Farmhouse Cafe. A farmhouse cafe. We haven't been out on a date in a few years, and this is where he takes me. I internally complained about this place, but felt a rush of gratitude as I was just happy to be out. As he rolled me over to a table we were set at, I grabbed the menu, glancing over it to see it was mostly chicken. "'Kay, go," I sighed, my eyes still pinned to the menu. "Yeah, babe," he answered. I could see him peer up at me with a curious gaze, which made me full of frustration. But before I could yell at him for it all, my frustration and anger deflated, and instead I was left with a guilty feeling. Looking up from the menu, I swallowed it all down, my happiness replacing it as I looked into his golden orbs, a smile present on his face. "I love you." His curiosity turned into pure love as he smiled back at me too, a small blush present on his cheeks. "I love you too, my little birdie." I also wanted to say that there will be no video tomorrow, sadly, because I will be busy on that day, and yeah. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye, lovelies.